27, we're on lesson 11 back there, Lynn. Get a chance to tell you that. You probably already knew that. And again, this lesson runs from chapter 27 through chapter 33. Starts off by looking at Jacob's journey back to Abraham's homeland. We see Jacob dwelling there for several years, right? Because he was just so in love. And we see again his journey back to the promised land. Today, specifically, we'll look at Jacob in the stairway. Came down from heaven. One of the first instances we're going to look at is the process of eventually getting one that he had as well. So that is where we will be looking into today in Genesis chapter 27. Now, let me ask you a question to kind of get this thing started off with. Finish this sentence for me if you can, if you want to. If I don't have my phone with me for a day, I feel. If I don't have my cell phone with me for a day, I will feel lost.
Relieved.
Relieved.
Might take off the time.
Any other adjective you can throw in there? Verbs? Disconnected. Sure. Yeah, sure. We have, as a society, came to rely heavily on our phones, which is a good and a bad thing. They're a good thing because we are so easily connected sometimes, which is good. Sometimes also, which is bad, right? There's pros and cons to that. We have become very, very reliable and reliant on those cell phones. And what's the reason? Why have we become so reliant? They do so much for us, right? There's so much information now just at our fingertips, and they help us do a whole bunch of stuff. Dad and I were building a carpenter over there, and he was using it to measure off certain things on his phone. He could walk from one distance to another. We didn't have a need for a tape measure. Didn't have a need for a level. We could do it on our phone. There's a lot of the things at our fingertips that we rely on that helps us because it gives us security and it helps us figure some things out. So that's why we become so reliant on them. Because they can do so much stuff for us. And I don't know, you all, maybe not as much as, probably so, but sometimes feel lost when you don't have the phone, right? When I walk out to school to go to work, 3 checks, right? Keys, wallet, phone, right? Keys, wallet, phone. I'll get 3 pass. Make sure I got all 3 of them. And when I don't, I'm like, oh, where do I put my phone at? Where do I leave it at? Where do people take it to? Whatever the case may be. Because we feel deprived or lost or a little bit insecure when we don't have them with us. Now, answer this question. If I didn't have God with me for a day, I would feel lost. Yeah, lost. Scared. Perhaps we are living with the knowledge of God, but without the daily reliance on God. Jacob learned the lesson, right? We're going to see that today. Jacob learned this lesson that God was with him all the time, right? And that because knowing that in every situation God was with him, he could rest in that fact and rest in the fact of God's grace. God's dealing with Jacob, as we'll see, helps us understand God's presence with us as well. This lesson has an activity we're supposed to read about before. Talk about a few things. I know we don't want to do that. But what it wants us to do is talk about the world's best security system. Okay? And we all know what a security system are. We've heard of ADT, Xfinity Home that has their service. There's a whole bunch of them out there. Simply Safe is another one that have cameras that set up, the Ring doorbells. You've seen commercials for those that show the camera. You can see what's going on outside. There's a whole bunch of different things that help us keep our homes and our lives secure. And, knowing at night that that house is secure helps us rest and sleep more easily. It does. During football season especially, I have a lot of late nights, and what do we We live in a place where ain't nobody coming to. I mean, it would be a job to get to our house, but it never fails at 11:30 on a Friday night if I'm coming home. I can't get in the house because every door is locked, because Haley feels more secure with every door in the house locked when I'm not there. I mean, I get it, I understand, it's frustrating at times, especially when my hands are full. But she does, she feels more secure, and that makes sense, because we do. We feel we can rest easier. We don't have to worry about things going bump in the night or whatever the case may be. And the same thing with those security systems. That's what those companies are selling, is security, safety, and rest, because you know that intruders or whatever can't get into your house. Now, how would you feel if you woke up in the morning and you lived, not like I do kind of off, but you live in a suburb or in town or in a city, and you woke up and you realized that you left the garage door open, right? You would go in a little bit of panic, thinking, oh no, who came and got what, or what kind of animals in here, got into the trash, or whatever, whatever may have happened. Security, point B, is important for all of us. Right? Having security is a very, very important thing for all of us. Jacob felt the need for security as he begins here to face the fears that he has to deal with. Now, God was patient with him, taught him some lessons, but he was in constant reminding Jacob that he was there, right? And Jacob could rest in that fact. So let's go to Genesis chapter 27. We're going to start in verse 41. That's where we left off with last week. And we'll see Jacob's journey to Abraham's homeland. And first of all, is leaving the promised land. Now, we cannot and we won't excuse Jacob for deceiving Isaac in the way that he did to get his birthright. Okay? What he did was wrong. Shouldn't have done it. It was sinful. Okay? And we're not going to excuse him for that. But some of the blame of that entire situation has to also fall onto Esau's shoulders. Right? Because he was directly involved with that whole scheme and that whole thing as well. He was a factor in that going on too. So having now at this point sold his birthright, he was not, of course we know, entitled to Isaac's, his father's blessings. And he had a deep burning hatred for Jacob because of this. That hatred, somewhat unjustified, but still yet there. So he planned to kill Jacob, as we kind of mentioned a little bit last week, after his father Isaac died. Verse 41 here of chapter 27. And it says, And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father had blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, The days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. So I'm going to wait for Dad to die, and when he dies, I'm going to kill my brother, because I'm furious for what he did. He stole my birthright. Now, he's thinking that Isaac's time to die could happen at any point. He's mistaken. It still takes some time here. Isaac still is alive for quite some time after this. But Rebekah, in verse 42, kind of overhears this thing that Esau was kind of talking about. In verse 42, and the words of Esau, her elder son, were told to Rebekah. And she sent and called Jacob her younger son, and said unto him, Behold, thy brother Esau is touching thee, doth comfort himself, purposing to kill thee. Read that verse 46. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice, and arise, and flee thou to Laban, my brother, to Haran, and tarry with him a few days, until thy brother's furies turn away. Until thy brother's anger turn away from thee, and forget that which thou hast done to him. Then I will send, and will fetch thee from thence. Why should I be deprived also of you both in one day? And Rebekah said to Isaac, I am weary of my life because of the daughters of Heth. If Jacob take a wife of the daughters of Heth, such as these which are the daughters of the land, what good shall my life do to me? So Rebekah learns of Esau's plan here to kill Jacob, and she takes no time here. She makes great haste in urging Jacob to escape to Haran. Right? Get out of town. Your crazy brother Esau is mad at you, and he's ready to kill you. And she's wanting to send him to Haran. And Haran is where her brother Laban is living at, and where lived, and that's where she's wanting to send him. She's afraid here, of course, that Esau is going to kill Jacob, and then in turn Esau would be killed well for killing Jacob. And that's what she's kind of worried about. And she tells Isaac, her husband, of course, that she's worried about this, and that she's also disgusted by the fact that Esau has taken pagan wives. And she's urging Isaac to send Jacob to Haran to obtain not a non-pagan wife, to obtain a believing wife. Okay? So up to this point here, especially if you jump back into verse 20 of chapter 27, how would you describe Jacob's relationship with God at this point, right now in his life? How would we describe Jacob's relationship with God? Is it close or is it distant? Distant, right? It's distant. Jacob, we see now on a couple of occasions of lack any type of trust in God. He's trying to control the circumstances of his own life. And again, if we jump back over to verse 20, let's just look over there, chapter 27, look at verse 20. And Isaac said to his son, "How is it that thou hast found it so quickly, my son?" And he said, "Because the Lord thy God brought it to me." It was a part of the deception. He's actually using God's name in the deception of his father there. How would such a relationship, affect Jacob's confidence as he started this journey into the unknown land? How was the state of his relationship with God? How is it going to affect his confidence as he starts on this journey to take him away from his homeland? Okay, let's make this thing go full circle. At the very beginning, we talked about self-confidence and insecurity. So how is this going to make Jacob feel, knowing that his relationship is not great with God? Exactly. Insecure. Very, very insecure. And not safe and worried about the walk or the journey that is ahead of him. Fearful. And he would have been counting on himself, right, for the success of his... Esau killed him, and in the success of this trip that he's going to take. Now, Isaac blesses Jacob here in chapter 28, first 4 verses of it, and tells him or charges him not to take a wife of the daughters of Canaan, the pagan wives, but to find a wife among the daughters of Laban, and specifically in the land where Laban was at, which would be Padan Aram. And then he gives the blessings of the Abrahamic covenant. Okay? Verses 1 through 4 there of chapter 28. And Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him and said unto him, "Thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. Arise, go to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel, thy mother's father, and take thee a wife from thence of the daughters of Laban, thy mother's brother. God Almighty bless thee, and make thee fruitful, and multiply thee, that thou mayest be a multitude of people, and give thee the blessings of Abraham to thee, and to thy seed with thee, that thou mayest inherit the land wherein thou art a stranger, which God hath given unto Abraham." Okay, so charges Jacob to go find a wife, don't make sure it's of godly people, and then he reassures him with the Abrahamic covenant. All right, now we get down into, let's keep going. Let's get down to verse 10. Verse 5, "And Isaac sent away Jacob, and went to Padan Aram unto Laban, son of Bethuel the Syrian, the brother of Rebekah, Jacob and Esau's mother. And when Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob, and sent him away to Padan Aram, to take him a wife from thence, and that as he blessed him, and gave him a charge, saying, Thou shalt not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan. And that Jacob obeyed his father and mother, and was gone to Padan Aram. And Esau, seeing the daughters of Canaan, pleased not Isaac his father. So he hears Isaac and Rebekah tell Jacob, don't take a Canaanite wife because they're pagan. We don't like them. Don't want them to, their ways to infiltrate our family. Go find a godly wife in the land of your mother's family, Laban. And Esau is there, and he hears all this and sees all this, and he realizes just how much that Isaac and Rebekah do not want Jacob to have a pagan wife. Okay? Verse 8. And Esau seeing the daughter of Canaan pleased not Isaac his father. Then went Esau unto Then went Esau unto Ishmael, and took unto the wives which he had Mahalath, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nebajoth, to be his wife. So we see that the disdain for the Canaanite people, Esau overhears this, so he tries to think of a way to find some favor here of his father. Okay? What he does then, so he doesn't necessarily marry a Canaanite woman, but he goes and finds some family, distant family, but some family in Ishmael, thinking that would help him gain some favor in his father's eyes. The problem with that is that what had God done to Ishmael back several years ago? Rejected him, right? God had rejected Ishmael because that was Abraham's and Sarah's fix for what they thought God wanted. So while he's trying to gain some favor, he does not, because again, God had already rejected Ishmael. But we see the state of Esau here, right? He is desperate to do whatever he can to get some blessing from his father. In some way, think maybe get whatever he's trying to do here. He's a very, very desperate man. But nothing is working out for him. Okay? That brings us to verse 10. We go back to Jacob, and we see God assuring Jacob and showing him some stuff while he's on his journey here. Chapter 28, verse 10. And Jacob went out from Beersheba and went toward Haran. And he lighted upon a certain place and tarried there all night, because the sun was set. And he took the stones of that place and put them for his pillows, and lay down in that place to sleep. Now, Jacob goes from Beersheba and journeys to the land of Haran. Okay? And he's headed in the right direction that God wants him to go. And that direction was, at this point, the reasoning for him leaving is to get away from Esau. Right? So he's heading in the right way, but the reasons aren't correct yet. That makes sense, right? He's just trying to get away from his brother Esau, worried about killing him. But the Lord here, as we're going to see, intervenes and kind of overrules for Jacob's good in his race here to escape death. Jacob travels 60 miles from Beersheba to Bethel. And if you look down at verse 19, we're going to get there in a second, but he called the name of the place Bethel. That's kind of where he's at right now. And it's a 3-day trip that would have taken him 60 miles. It would have taken him 3 days to do that. And if ever Jacob here was to feel insecure or worried or uncertain in any way, I'm sure he felt that way the first time that he was away from mom and dad and was out by himself and it was dark. And he was sleeping out, kind of just out in the wilderness. His first kind of night away from home. Because we know Jacob was what? He was a mama's boy, right? He was a mama's boy that kind of like made sure that he was always within eyeshot of what she was doing. Not that there's terribly anything wrong with that, but Esau had been out and hunted and spent many days away. Jacob had not done that. This is his first night away. And imagine kind of how he feels and his insecurities in his work. So first night away from home, all the props had collapsed under him. And he was now in an unknown future, an uncertain next couple of days, and he really didn't know kind of what was going to happen. So he was very, very uncertain and unknown for what the future may have given him or confronted him. The very first time here, Jacob is on his own. We see him completely and entirely on his own. And now it's time for him to grow in his relationship with God. Okay? This is time for him to do that. So, we see him putting the stone down there for pillows. I think he would have grabbed a blanket from the house and took it with him, but he didn't obviously probably see the way in which he rushed out there. I think what that shows. Rebecca said, leave, Esau's going to kill you, and he probably just grabbed what he could and took off. So even more, didn't have anything really familiar around him at all. So he grabs one of the stones, makes his pillow, and eventually falls asleep. And then we get to verse 12. In verse 13, and while he was sleeping here, so then he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven, and behold, the angels of God ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord stood above it and said, I am the Lord God of Abraham thy father, and the God of Isaac. The land whereon thou liest, to thee I will give it, and to thy seed. So, falling asleep here, Jacob dreams and sees a stairway on which angels were going up and down on this stairway, or on the ladder, however you want to describe it. And he also sees the Lord standing nearby at the top of it as well. The angels, of course, were God's messengers, God's workers, and going and coming, doing God's bidding. Now, this was probably a pretty interesting sight for Jacob to see in a dream. What is the importance of it? Why did God show Jacob this ladder or stairway with angels going up and down and ascending and descending on it, and God kind of being over it? Why is God showing Jacob this? Let him know that he's with him, let him know that he's there, but what else?
Who's in control when everything seems to be out of control?
In control when everything is out of control. Exactly, I'm looking for one more thing. It's also showing Jacob that he's active. He's there. Right? He's close. And he's not some distant person or thing or entity that mom and dad had just talked about and taught him about, but he's close, he's present, and he's got angels going up and down doing work because he's very, very active. Okay? Showing him that he's busy, not distant and inactive. Now, while Jacob is gaining his father's blessing through lies and deception, Jacob had essentially just viewed God as that person kind of off in the distance. He was there, he knew he was important, but he really hadn't allowed him to influence anything that was going on. Because up to this point, Jacob's plans have worked out pretty good. He deceived his dad, got the birthright, but now stuff's starting to kind of fall in around him. God shows him this stairway or ladder with these angels going up and down, showing that he is not a bystander. He is not just a presence that is there, but that he is close and he's active and he's busy. Verse 14, and thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and thou shalt spread abroad to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south. In thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed. And behold, I am with thee, and will keep thee in all places whither thou goest, and will bring thee again into this land. For I will not leave thee until I have done that which I have spoken of. So the Lord, in the midst of this dream of these angels going up and down, speaks to Jacob and refers to himself as what? The Lord God of what? I'm the God of your grandfather. I'm the God of your father. And I'm the God of you. That's what he tells him. Speaks out to him and tells him that. Extending the unconditional promises from Abraham and Isaac, extending them to Jacob. Now, let's just for a second, if we think about this from a very human standpoint, does Jacob deserve this security that God has given him? Absolutely not. Right? Of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, of these three men, Jacob is the least deserving. Because of the way that he's acted in the first 20 or 25 years of his life. Okay? But God, being faithful to his promise that he told Abraham, being faithful to the promise that he told Isaac, is extending those unconditional promises to Jacob. Since he recently deceived Isaac, the mentioning of Isaac's name had to have been somewhat alarming to Jacob as well. God was no longer just somebody that mom and dad had talked about, but somebody that was very, very real and very, very present. He was actually standing before Jacob, talking to him directly. Okay? So we see again the Abrahamic covenant. And we look at verse 15 of chapter 28. It goes back and talks about reviewing here all of the actions in the Abrahamic covenant. And He's going to give him land, He's going to give him posterity, and He's going to give him blessings. Now, who is doing all of the action here in verse 15? Exactly. God is doing all of the action. Why would it be particularly important for Abraham to hear, or excuse me, for Jacob to hear all that God is going to do?
He's tried so hard to do it himself.
Exactly. He's tried so hard to do it himself. So God's showing up. He's giving him this grand visual of these angels going up and down this ladder. This would have been a moment in Jacob's life that he would have never forgotten. Right? God is using this grand moment to teach him a lesson. He's trying to focus Jacob, or make Jacob realize that he was focused on himself and his abilities instead of being focused on what God could do. God is showing Jacob that God makes the promises. God makes the promises come true. And while he was fearful of what Esau might do to him, facing a lot of unknowns and leaving what the promised land and what he knew, God was making it clear to Jacob that he would be with him during all of it, during the certainties and the uncertainties as well. If you look at the very last phrase of verse 15, and it says, "For I will not leave thee until I have done that which I have spoken to thee of." The last phrase means that God would stay with Jacob until Jacob died. He's going to be there the whole time. For every instance, for every scenario, he was going to be there. Go to verse 16. "And Jacob awaked out of his sleep, and he said," excuse me, "How dreadful is this place?" Nope, verse 16. "And Jacob waked out of sleep, and he said, Surely the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not. And he was afraid, and said, How dreadful is this place! This is none other but the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven." So Jacob wakes up, realizes what just happened, and speaks out, "How dreadful is this place?" Now, dreadful in the translation, and dreadful in Jewish vernacular actually means excites with reverence and awe. It doesn't mean dreadful like we use it. Something dreadful we kind of don't want it to happen. It doesn't mean that in this in the way Jacob is saying. He means it excites him. It's full of reverence and full of awe. Jacob trembles in awe of God and God's promises. Go down to verse 18 and just read down through the rest of the chapter. "Jacob rose up early in the morning, took the stone that he put for his pillows, and set it for a pillar, and poured oil upon it, upon the top of it, and he called the name of the place Bethel. But the name of the city was called Luz at first. And Jacob vowed a vow, saying, If God will be with me and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat and raiment to put on, so that I come again to my father's house in peace, then shall the Lord be my God. And this stone which I have set for a pillar shall be God's house. And all that thou shalt give me, I will surely give the 10th unto thee." So God makes it clear to Jacob that he's going to be with him. And Jacob vows here in verses 18 through 22, he vows to show and give total dependence on God. The last phrase there, verse 21, if you look at it, says, "Then shall the Lord be my God." That's not there to suggest that Jacob's putting any type of conditions on whether he would choose God, not bargaining with God, but showing that God would be with him and that he would choose him. Jacob's recent antics, with his father up to this point wasn't making him a strong candidate for God's choosing. Yet we see that's exactly what God did. Jacob vows here also revealed his concern with his immediate needs. He's asking for bread and raiment, clothing and safety. And he desired for God to meet his needs because he was so vulnerable and could not be sure of his immediate future. If God provided for Jacob's needs, then we would see him recognizing God for doing so by tithing unto him. Go back to verse 22. We'll probably pick up here next week, because I want to kind of talk about this a little bit more. But he says that, "In the stone which I have set for a pillar shall be God's house, and all that thou shalt give me, I will surely give the tenth unto thee." So we see here the mentionings of tithing and giving back what God has given to Jacob. He's making a promise. God takes care of me. I'm going to make sure I give a tenth of it back. Which, of course, we know even now the tithing that we do deals with a tenth of our income as well. We're going to talk a little bit more about that next week as well. That's kind of one of the first mentionings of it that we see in Scripture, giving back portions back unto God that He's given us. All right, so that finishes up the first little bit of this. God assuring Jacob, his presence and his promises. And then next week we'll jump into chapter 29. Jacob dwells in Abraham's homeland, and we see Jacob get a life, well, sort of, and kind of some of the stuff that happened. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for a lesson that we have. Thank you for everything that you've done for us, Lord, as well. And for the lesson of truth that we see here in the life of Jacob. How he tried to do things his own way, and he was insecure and worried about it, but you showed up and continued to keep the promises that you've been faithful to his family and to his father's Lord, and using those things to realign Jacob's focus away from himself and on you. How gracious that was of you. You didn't deserve it, but you did. The same thing you did for us. You do for us on a daily basis. Realign our focus to you. Keep the focus off of us, so that we are more secure in our walk with serving